Before this voice takes you any further, there is something you should know. I am not here to make you believe anything, not here to make you follow anyone, and not here to make you feel better. The only thing I do is point. Point to something that has always been with you, but has never been pointed out. What you will hear on this channel is not motivation, not philosophy, and not comfort. It is what remains after every belief falls silent. I spent years examining this through direct experience before daring to speak even a single word. So if you're only looking for something pleasant to listen to, this may not be your place. But if somewhere deep inside you are searching for truth, no matter how much it may shake your world, stay and listen, not to me, but to what is already listening within you.
In a universe that never stops changing, what is it that we are truly searching for? For centuries, humanity has looked outwards, toward stars, toward matter, toward the beginning of existence itself. We built theories, equations, and explanations, hoping that somewhere within them we might finally find certainty. But the deeper we look, the more everything seems to move. Matter is not still. Time does not stand still. Even emptiness is not truly empty. And perhaps what exhausts the human heart is not the mystery of the universe itself, but the endless attempt to hold on to what was never meant to stay. This is not a journey to find all the answers. It is simply an invitation to look quietly at the nature of the world, the movement of life, and the peace that may appear when we stop trying to hold the changing.
Have you ever looked up at the night sky? Amid the countless stars scattered across the darkness, perhaps you have quietly asked themselves, how did this vast universe come to be? What kind of beginning does the world we live in truly have? Or what truth lies behind everything that exists? These questions have lived within humanity for a very long time. From the age of myths to the era of physics and cosmology, every attempt has come from the same longing to understand the world we live in. For centuries, humans have tried to understand the universe through science. We observe, measure, and construct equations to explain the nature of reality. Scientists discovered that the universe appears to follow certain consistent patterns, such as the speed of light, the structure of atoms, and the laws of gravity. These discoveries gave us the feeling that we were beginning to understand how the universe works. At one time, the world was explained through the mechanics of Sir Isaac Newton, which described motion and gravity with remarkable precision. Later, that understanding was expanded by the theory of relativity proposed by Albert Einstein, revealing a deeper relationship between space, time, and energy. But as science began to explore reality at much smaller scales, what it found was not as stable as we once believed. What we call particles are no longer seen as tiny solid objects, but as excitations, vibrations within underlying energy fields. This framework is known as quantum field theory. At this level, even what we call empty space is not truly empty. There are constant fluctuations of energy appearing and disappearing continuously. This phenomenon is known as quantum fluctuation.
The deeper science looks into nature, the more the image of the universe begins to shift. What once seemed solid, stable, and certain is revealed to be in constant motion, constant transformation, and fundamental uncertainty. What appears to be solid matter may simply be energy in continuous motion. What seems like emptiness is still filled with subtle events of arising and dissolving. From this perspective, the universe is not a fixed structure, but more like a flowing process that never truly stops changing.
Science was never meant to teach philosophy, yet what it reveals quietly points towards something profoundly simple. Nothing is truly still. Matter is not fixed.
Even the vacuum is alive with fluctuation. What appears stable may only be a temporary pattern within ongoing change. If we look deeper, what we try to describe as patterns of nature may not be something ultimately fixed or final. They may simply be recurring expressions of continuous arising and passing away. The world, then, is not something we can hold as an essence. It is only a flow of energy, a flow of conditions, a flow of emergence and dissolution. As this understanding begins to settle, we may start to notice that the same truth is not only present in the universe, but in our own lives. What we call life is part of the same flow. People we meet, relationships we value, successes and failures we once thought significant, all of them move with time. Nothing remains where it was forever. Seeing this, we may begin to understand that the effort to hold on to what is constantly changing may be the source of much of our exhaustion, because the outer world never stops moving and nothing within it can be held permanently. Perhaps we do not need to understand everything in the universe, because the path of knowledge has no end. Every answer gives rise to new questions. The external world becomes an endless journey without a final destination. And sometimes what makes us tired is not the complexity of the world, but our attempt to fully grasp it. In chasing explanations for everything, we may overlook what is closest, the reality of life unfolding right in front of us.
If we look honestly, we see that everything around us is changing. People, relationships, possessions, achievements, even our thoughts and beliefs all shift over time. Even those we respect, trust, or rely on are part of this changing world. Nothing external can remain the same forever.
When this truth is seen deeply, we begin to understand, no matter how many new theories humanity discovers, no matter how deep physics goes, everything still exists within a changing world. New knowledge will arise, and one day it too will be replaced. There is no final conclusion in the outer world. At this point, some questions begin to fade. We may no longer feel the need to chase every answer about the universe, because no matter how deep an answer is, it still belongs to the same stream of change.
What matters more than understanding the universe may be seeing clearly. There is nothing in the external world that can serve as a permanent refuge.
And as the search outward begins to quiet, some turn inward, not towards stars, not towards particles, not towards theories, but toward the mind itself. When the mind begins to see the nature of arising and passing, attachment gradually loosens, and in that loosening, something simple begins to appear. The end is not found in knowing everything, but in accepting things as they are. And perhaps that is where questioning truly ends, not because we have solved the universe, but because we no longer need to. When acceptance arises, the need to hold on to the external begins to dissolve. And in that moment, many discover something very simple. True stability does not come from the outside, but from learning to stand within oneself, not rejecting the world, but understanding it as it is. When we stop trying to hold what cannot stay, the mind begins to settle on its own. And in that settling, what we have been searching for may not be the answer to the universe, but simply a quiet peace within. Because in the end, nothing is extraordinary. Everything is utterly ordinary, and everything is already passing. The world continues to change as it always has, but peace does not come from stopping that change. It comes from no longer holding on to it.
And perhaps in the end, the universe was never asking us to understand it completely. Perhaps it was only showing us that everything is moving, everything is changing, and nothing can truly be held forever. The stars continue to burn, galaxies continue to drift through silence, life continues to arise and fade just as it always has. And slowly, the need to explain everything begins to soften, not because every mystery has been solved, but because life does not need to become permanent in order to be complete. And maybe peace begins quietly when nothing is forced to remain. The mind simply becomes lighter on its own. And this is simply a voice at the crossroads. What matters most is not what is said, but what is seen. Until we meet again, if meeting is still needed.